You answered the question, right? Um, Disbanding the police force potentially if they murder someone, 2% likelihood of even being charged, much less being convicted. There's
Right.
no accountability, right? So if you do, I mean, the you have a 98% chance of not even being charged if you murder someone as a cop. So like there is no consequences. There are no consequences for that. And just quickly, me being the resident lawyer as to how this will probably play out. I know people will be interested. So I did some research on Minnesota sentencing laws because I'm that type of nerd. I think let me go. I landed at like 12 and a half years. Um, is what the probable sentence will be. Let me pull it back up. Because it's like 128 to 180 months, 150 being the usual, 150 months, so 12 and a half years. They'll probably run them all concurrent. So he'll probably do 12 and a half. I didn't find like the sentencing, if it was Oklahoma, um, the sentencing would be range would be a lot wider, and he'd have to do a lot more of the time that is in other states. He has no criminal history, and criminal scores or criminal histories, as we saw, right? We tried to address with this state question, have a huge enhancements. He has no criminal history. He won't suffer those enhancements. So it's looking like probably 12 and a half years, somewhere in that range, um, is what he'll be sentenced to. Again, those are one concurrent. So it won't be 12 and a half or how many other years for each charge. He'll serve all of them together. Um, so I'm sure people have those questions. That's just like a guess based on the figures. There is a civil suit against the other officers that was stayed until after the other officers and Chauvin into their criminal proceedings are in. I assume that they don't have a lot of money because lawyers are expensive, but there is potential that the civil suit, wrongful death, that is a lower threshold. Again, if I'm a betting man, I think they'll win the wrongful death suits. As far as compensation, probably little, if any, for the family, but they did get a $27 million settlement from Minneapolis, and so that's how the civil aspect will play out. He will probably appeal. Appeal will be interesting. The judge made a comment
Oh
that
my God. Yeah.
no judge I would ever could ever fathom making. The defense attorney asked for a mistrial on the basis of Maxine Waters saying like we have to take to the street. It's she didn't say anything like we got to burn this motherfucker down, but
Right.
or tear this motherfucker up like Ice Cube would say. She just said like basically like be diligent and take to the streets or something along those lines. The attorney asked for a mistrial on the basis of that, that it taints the jury. Um, he lost. I don't know any judge that would grant that. But the judge then said you can bring it up on appeal, which is weird because no judge wants to be appealed first and foremost, so they wouldn't say that to you. It's known you can bring that up on appeal because you objected and you raised this issue, so you raised it. It is now fresh and can be appealed. And the most important thing is um, the way the appeal courts work is they show great deference to the jury trial court, and
Hmm.
specifically on this particular matter, it is in law in a decision that they should show great deference to the trial courts because the trial courts are there to assess what, if any, impact this statement had on the jury. So for him to say that shows a level, a just a different level of justice, quote unquote, that police officers get in courtrooms versus what uh, everyday defendants get in courtrooms. So he'll probably appeal it. I don't think he'll win on appeal. They show great deference to the trial courts. So I don't think he'll win on appeal. And so that's my post legal analysis of what occurred.
Yeah. And just like Ryan, the guy I was going back and forth with on Twitter about his horrible take. I mean, he sent me that article, and it's just like, fucking Maxine Waters makes a comment. I mean, I didn't even read it, like, because, I mean, she's a politician. They make lots of comments. But it's like the idea that the one comment out of the millions and millions of comments over the last 8 months, like, that's your thing to declare mistrial. I mean, it's so just illogical and dumb, and just, to me, smacks of like the kind of unaccountable white supremacy that like the whole system just permeates. That a white guy would even just like come to that like, yeah, I'm gonna pick this one random black woman out of the millions of people who have commented, and fuck, I mean, I'm sure conservatives have said like even more insane stuff on Parler and wherever their back channels are now about the case and about how we should riot or do something if it's a guilty verdict, you know, like I just
there's an entire fucking industry of media just showing us these like I like crime porn stories. Like, I live in Tulsa and I regularly scroll my timeline and see like mother accused of killing children in Wyoming. And I'm like, why the fuck am I seeing that?
Yeah.
I'm in Tulsa. And district attorneys regularly work the refs. In fact, if this wasn't a cop, if it was somebody else kneeling on his, murdering a man on camera, you think that this DAs wouldn't have put into the media every bad thing this person has ever done their entire life, especially if they're black? Whenever the DA is trying to, every time, not prosecute the cop, you know how they taint the media by going back and and finding every fucking transgression this person has ever committed and flooding the media with it. Like, DAs work the media refs constantly.
Well, even the initial report from the Minneapolis police about the killing of George Floyd was that. I mean, it was a black man had a medical issue while being taken into custody by the police. It's like, we got video on that. Definitely wasn't the only thing going on there, you lying psychopaths. But I mean, they tried to work it from the word go. And then the judge is like, oh no, Maxine Waters, who is like a fucking rep from like California. I mean, it's like, doesn't even have anything to fucking do with any of this. It's her. She's the one. It's like, maybe the Minneapolis Police Department like worked the refs way harder at the outset of this than fucking Maxine Waters making an off-the-cuff comment to get some airtime on CNN, you know? I mean, it's so... And like fucking idiots like Ryan at OCPA, I mean, they conservatives like this, I mean, they just drink this stuff up. Like, they just think it's like... they think they're making a good argument. It's like, shut up. Anyway, sorry.
They don't have to think they're making a good argument. They just have to think that they're going to scream the loudest. Like, that's what they're not trying to like perfectly connect the dots and create logical like ideas, because they know that if they put out any idea, people are going to go, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true. I heard that. And you're going, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, these people have all of their power based on telling people that the sky is orange. Yeah. And people just going, okay, well, he said that. And it's always a he. I'm sorry. Yeah. It mostly is a he.
It's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It makes me bananas just how these guys get to this. Because they really do, I think, believe, or they're just lying and they're just really good actors. But, I mean, they really believe they have a point. And I'm just like, you don't ever at all.
And it has to be noted they specifically chose Maxine Waters.
Oh, right? Of course.
It's a black woman boogeyman. I'm quite sure you could have found a lot of politicians from a lot of places who have made bigger statements than her. Even I think Joe Biden said something earlier that fucking day. Like, if you wanted to, you could pick Joe Biden.
Family and yeah.
Yeah, you could if you wanted some alleged tainting of the jury in a public sphere, there are a lot of politicians you could have chose, and I find it I don't want to say interesting. I find it racist and sexist and full of shit that they chose Maxine Waters as who somehow tainted the jury, right?
8 fucking months of global protests, but it was Maxine Waters the day of sentencing that I mean, honestly, timing of her comment was probably like after they had already determined, what they were going to do. I mean, they were probably just, anyway, it's just, racist, sexist, bullshit, and idiot white dudes just running around forwarding that shit like it's gold standard logic.
Well, and it's like, if Trump was still president, I mean, Joe Biden made a statement after the jury was sequestered, so after they were like locked down, it's like, do you think Trump would have done that? No, that dude would have been smacking his gob the entire time. And, like sending Barr in or doing like whatever he could to influence that trial. So it's not like it's not even like if the shoes are flipped, because like Maxine Waters, like you said, is like a representative from California. Like that's a different level than the president of the United States. But like their commander in chief would have been like, yappity yak, yakety yak, gossip queen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this comment in chat, like, talking about the girl killed by the cops yesterday, it's like, now the victims, of these horrible murders have to go out and be like, well, actually, my kid was really good, and, like, they were a decent person, and we love them, I mean, it's such a grotesque performance art that we are forcing people to develop, all just to get the cops to stop killing people unnecessarily.